Standing up in McKinney. Yes, I'm back. This is According to Callus. I have a twofold Texas Tuesday report for you today, if you will. Not going to be a normal show. Just want to be upfront about that. I also want to pass along the the reverence, I guess. The reverence that is due to those who gave up their lives for our country. I would like to say that they were all given willingly, but I would say some of them were probably given up for bad reasons or poor decisions from the leadership part. That does not reflect upon the individual men and women that went and did their duty and, did the honorable thing. Just means that maybe we shouldn't have been there in the first place, in my opinion. That being said, you can absolutely oppose a war or oppose a conflict without denigrating or attacking my brothers in arms. So I just wanted to put that out there. Memorial Day was yesterday, and it's tough. It's tough to not just see that as another holiday or another excuse to have a grill out. I think everybody mourns differently. Everybody reflects differently. I am not going to critique how you guys and your family might have reminisced. I would just say that I believe the lion's share of those men and women that gave up their lives did so that you could have a grill out, so that you could spend time with your family, that you could continue to make a good life and protect our country. So that's what I've been working on last week, trying to preserve the republic, if you will. And look, everybody's got a different tilt on this, and I try really hard to use grace and to be open to different points of view. But when you openly work against the greater good, as I understand it, when you openly look to hurt the community that you're in, damage and push back because of your own understanding of things, without having the benefit of talking to somebody that perhaps disagrees with you or somebody has a different point of view, without being open that maybe, just maybe, you got this one wrong, that's tough. That's challenging, because guess what? I can't let that stuff stand. It's just not in me. So here we go. So I'm going to briefly go through the big wins, if you will, that came out of the state convention. When I'm done with that, I'm going to talk briefly about the election that is still not over, and then probably going to have time to touch base on the municipal races, particularly in Allen, that are still not over. There's a certain amount of fatigue that comes in when you're constantly on the campaign trail, and I see these people, I see these guys and these ladies. They go out there and they go all in because that's their job. That's what they're doing. And most of them I support. I just do. Even if I don't necessarily support them as a candidate, I support their decision and what they're doing and the effort and the work that goes behind it. And for me, that's the biggest challenge, to not support the candidate for that role, but still support the candidate as a person and the effort that they've put in. Okay, fair enough. I've, I guess, prefaced this enough. So the big win was, and I don't know how else to say it other than it was a victory for the conservative grassroots Republicans. We have Abraham George as a county chair. Now he's been elevated to a state chair. We have Dorinda Randall, who is formerly from DFW, that is now down in Houston, has been there for several years, and she is now the vice chair. So there's a DFW connection to both the chair and the vice chair of the Republican Party of Texas. This is a very good thing. Now, even if you're, have your doubts and whatever else, that's fine. But I think Texas is going to benefit in two ways. One, I think that it will help us improve our operations up in the DFW area, which has been lacking. The folks down in Houston have got their act together. I'll talk more about that in the weeks to come. And when I say down in Houston, what I really mean is the suburbs surrounding Houston, particularly north. Secondarily, San Antonio's got trouble. Dallas has been in trouble, and we have to redouble our efforts in Tarrant and Collin and Denton County. And for that, I want to also give a big shout out to my man Patrick Walmoff and Rachel Horton gets a second term out in the SREC for Senate District 30. And no sooner does Patrick win, he takes the opportunity to promote Jace Yarbrough against Brent Hangenbaugh. Good on him. Go get him, Jace. This is the big day today. Let's deliver. All right. Also, in the SREC, we sent Jim Pickle back for a second term. I can think of nobody better for that role at this time. And Maggie's going to get a second or third term, one or the other. I think it's third term. We are in good stead. It is a good thing for Collin County. And for those that don't know, Rains and Hunt County are now part of SD8. And the folks over in Hunt are solid, good conservatives, and I'm glad to have them part of the team. And the few people that I ran across in Rains, same thing could be said about them. It is fantastic to have some reinforcements to make SD8 even redder, if you will. And I got to say, in this day and age, it it reflects upon it from time to time. The concept of calling something red and not thinking of it as communist red. Also, for those that have been counting, this is now my 6th state convention, the 5th one as a delegate, and the 2nd one as your state your representative at state for the SD8 Platform Committee. So, thank you all, and I continue to work to keep things liberty-orientated, conservative, and I'm going to support any and all that work towards that end. Additionally, we picked up Debbie Georgiadis. Boy, I hope I got that name right. Constitutional stalwart. She has her own radio show. She's been a lawyer for years. She lives up in Collin County as well, and she is now our national delegate or national representative, and she's going to be joining Dr. Armstrong. So we have two very good, solid, and Dr. Armstrong, I believe, is down in the Houston area, going to the national committee to do our work there as well. Again, DFW won big. Don't fool yourself, folks. Texas is conservative. It's quote-unquote red. It's Republican. But if we don't work, if we don't put aside our minor differences, we're going to be in trouble. And I believe we are making steps in that direction. And want to thank Don Huffines for, basically paying for the paper the paper platforms that were sent out. I could speak more to that issue, but at this time I'm going to sit out that. There were it was not without some issues, but that none of that is on Don Huffines. Don Huffines just sponsored that giant cost. Everybody got the paper platform that wanted one, and it's a good thing, and I'm grateful that he was there to do that. The platform, on the other hand, had some hiccups. That being said, everybody had an opportunity to vote on every plank. And a good number of those people trust that we did a good job in the platform committee. And I had a stellar team that I was working with. We had decent leadership out of Matt Patrick. And we put together what I believe was a very good platform. Sadly, again, the hiccups. And again, no reflection on Don Huffines on that deal. But I think even with that, it was still a very good, solid platform. And I was blessed and honored to be able to serve on that committee. We picked up some really good rules, which we'll be rolling out. we can close our primaries and we can hold elected officials accountable. These are two big, big wins. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a good opportunity here. Let's not squander it. Let's not waste it. Let's not get lost in the weeds of fighting against 2 or 3 degrees of difference. The state party is in good hands. The state party is going in the right direction. We have to have confidence and we have to work together to do the best job we can. And whether you love him or hate him, the Donald will be our nominee. He will be our candidate. And we are blessed to have Ted Cruz running again for 3rd term. Strangely enough, I seem to remember he said he was only going to run for 2. But I got to tell you, Ted's been great. And I'm hoping maybe by staying involved and staying there, perhaps we will see a Justice Cruz at some point in the future. Just a thought. All right, let's pivot now. Let's drop back into Collin County for just a few minutes here. We are not without issues in Collin County. I could dramatize it and kind of use a little hyperbole to put a fine point on it. I'm going to resist at this point. I want you to know that I'm fully aware that Montgomery County has had bigger problems. They have fixed a good number of those problems. Denton County has got a number of problems. They're past most of those now. And you want to give credit where credit is due, but while the battle is fighting, you do not want to celebrate. So those battles are still going on, but we're in a much better position now. I'm confident of that, having gotten to speak to some of the folks down there, as well as our man Patrick out in Denton County. All right. So as we were talking about Collin County, we have a couple of very important races. And I have been doing my level best to stay objective, to realize that just because I want something doesn't mean it's going to happen. And just because it seems obvious to me doesn't mean it's obvious to somebody listening to me or somebody else out there. Also, if the people that I don't support win, I don't want to create any more animosity or negative relationship than I have to, because I'm going to need to work with them. And I'd much rather have them see me as loyal opposition than their enemy. So I have been very careful not to go in attack mode. There's more than enough of that going on. But today is the last day of the election. This episode, it's going to be late, but this episode is going to be going out before 1 p.m. And I know there's going to be a lion's share of voters coming out today to vote, even with the bad weather, even with all the troubles. Today is election day, and this is when the good conservatives show up to vote. That they go and put their final stamp on the election outcome. So I want to be clear on how I say this. I know both candidates running for county chair. I like both candidates running for county chair. I don't think Ellen's ready. I truly hope that if the outcome goes the way I would prefer, which is Shelby winning, that she will stick around and be involved. If not, becoming a precinct chair again, taking on some role with the county party. I think she's got a ton of potential. She's a super nice lady. She's smart. She's going to go places. She just needs to put in a little more time. She's just not ready to jump up to that responsibility yet. That being said, there's a possibility she's going to win. And I don't want to have her see me as her enemy. I am not. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to change. I'm me. I'm going to be me. And I am the loyal opposition. When you're wrong, or at least when I think you're wrong, I'm going to work against what it is you're trying to do. Now, if you can convince me the value or that you're right, I'll help you, or I'll at least back off. But I'm going to do what I need to do to protect our republic. That being said, if Shelby Williams is successful, and I think he will be, I look forward to working with him. And honestly, I'm going to do my best to hold him accountable just as much, if not more so, because he's going to have his hands full and he's going to need good, solid help. I've already let him know that it is my intention to do whatever he'll let me do to help the party and to do, to grow and expand our influence. We have not done a good job of that. We as Collin County have allowed ourselves to be put in a pickle. Not Jim Pickle, but just a bad situation. And we need to see our way through it. And we need to quit looking for enemies and start looking for allies. And so given the chance, that is going to be my job one. And I have no promises. I'm just throwing it out there so you all know exactly where I'm coming from. Because it's very important. It's vitally important. As we pivot once again, we're going to the HD61 race. Based upon what I'm seeing, there have been tons of money dumping in from special interest groups to prevent Frederick from losing. And again, once again, I know Frederick. I've talked to him. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's made some really bad decisions that really should be minor, should be stupid little things that could have been cast off and put in the past. Unfortunately, much like Richard Nixon, they got him for the cover-up. They got him for essentially lying. Unfortunately for Frederick, I think that's where he's at now. Just so I'm clear, I don't think I spent a lot of time running around talking about the dishonorable discharge. My understanding was at the time the dishonorable discharge was put in place because there was an investigation, because there was, things being sorted out. And after delaying and doing different things, we now have that he's fulfilled the terms of 2 of the 3 charges. So when you have deferred adjudication, that just means it goes away. It's not held over your head, but you were still convicted. You were still in trouble. There's the 3rd charge, which I think is for impersonating a public official. That has not gone away. And part of the plea bargain here, if you will, was there to not be a felony charge. Now, I got to be completely honest with you here. On all 3 of these things, a felony charge, in my humble opinion, is a major stretch. But nobody should be above the law. Everybody has consequences. This is a guy that clearly knew better. Clearly knew better. You were in law enforcement for 28 years. You knew what you were doing were wrong. I don't care what your reasons were. It was wrong. You denied it, which I expect nothing less. You're going to court, you're going to have to deny it. I don't fault you necessarily for denying it. But man, and then to just pretend that you didn't get a dishonorable discharge when clearly you did. Now, when you satisfied the terms of your probation, that allowed for you to go get that renegotiated to a general discharge. Now, being former military, I can tell you a general discharge is not the same thing as an honorable discharge. It's not the same thing as a bad conduct discharge or a dishonorable discharge. It's not, but it's not an honorable discharge. And fortunately, Dr. Paul Chabot, who has been on this since day one, has noticed that they got that changed and is adjusted accordingly. So you got your dishonorable discharge essentially upgraded to a general discharge. But let's be clear with everybody listening to the sound of my voice, that is still not an honorable discharge. Now, I don't know what all the ramifications are. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but a general discharge is not an honorable discharge. Because if it was an honorable discharge, you would have an honorable discharge. Now, do I agree that 28 years of what would probably have been good service should be destroyed by stupid stuff you did in a campaign? No. I don't want to see somebody's career or pension or whatever else destroyed over that. I think that would be equally wrong and equally egregious. But again, nobody should be above the law. You clearly knew what you were doing was wrong, and you did it anyway. And you knew there were legal consequences, but apparently you didn't think you were going to be held accountable. And I'm sorry. I really, truly am sorry for your, not so much you, but for your family. I mean, this has put them in a really tough spot. And I can appreciate your wife fighting good and hard for you. I would want nothing less for you and your family than your wife to have your back. I know my wife has my back. But honestly, I don't know how to defend this, and I'm not going to defend this. I came out, after the original primary, and I said, I think you need to really consider Keresa Richardson. It's an unknown. I take it on faith. There are a lot of good people I know that are backing her, that know her for years, that say she's the right thing, that we need to replace you with. I'm fine. I've endorsed her. I think having spoken to her, having to do an interview with her, I think she's going to do a good job. I apologize. I need a little more caffeine here. I'm confident that we're going to have a good option here. But I also want to say, please, ladies and gentlemen, I know there's been a ruckus during early voting. You don't go after the guy's family. You don't antagonize his daughter. Now, yes, his daughter's out poll greeting. She's a minor. Geez, who thought that was a good idea? In fairness, it does kind of look like he's running them out as human shields. I'll give you that, because I've heard it from multiple people. And Frederick, come on, man. I know you know better than that. Honestly, I believe you to be an honorable guy that made some mistakes. I believe you to be a good guy that really just thought he could get away with it. And that was a bad choice, dude. I'm asking you. If you should win, please go repent. Repent and sin no more. That's all I can ask. I'm not your enemy if you should win, but I can't help you. And Keresa, I don't know what. I highly doubt 90% of what was put out about you in the last couple of weeks is true. I imagine most of it's hyperbole and exaggeration, and, well, I guess that's a redundant statement. But I reasonably can expect that most of it's nonsense. And, well, I don't know for absolute certainty that you're going to win. A whole lot of people feel quite confident. Enough so that the sheriff, the county judge, 2 of the constables have come out and endorsed you and are supporting you, are working for you. Myself of doing the same thing. I want the best. I really, truly do. We had that conversation. I told you the very same thing. We need good, solid representation in HD61 that's going to work for HD61. We don't need somebody that's going to shill for casinos. We don't need somebody that's going to have Dade Phelan's back. We don't need somebody that's going to, put their fraternity above all others. Which are all the accusations that have been leveled. Among dozens of others. I don't know what's fair. And quite frankly, I have zero control over that. I've stayed out of the mud. I'm trying my best to stay out of the mud. I cannot confirm nor deny any of this stuff. I was hoping for a clean race. That didn't happen. I was hoping that we would get a noble outcome. Foolish of me to think that was possible. Honestly, I own that mistake. Perhaps in retrospect, it would have been better if I would have come down on one side sooner. But I couldn't. I just did not feel comfortable doing that. And I saw no advantage to anybody by making an enemy of a guy that I thought at the time was very likely to win, just like his compadres did. It was no accident that Governor Abbott was up here 3 different times campaigning for Candy, Jeff, and Matt. He's excuse me. Governor Abbott is now actively campaigning against Justin Holland. And in fairness, he deserves it. He really does. Frederick delivered on a number of things that the governor wanted, which is why he has not removed the endorsement. But it's no mistake that not once has he been up here stumping and campaigning for Frederick Frazier. To blow that off and to ignore that, I mean, I guess he didn't have any other choice, but it's obvious. It's obvious that you weren't invited to those group hugs sessions that he was doing for the other 3. It's obvious to a lot of voters that the very guy that helped you get across the finish line the first time has all but walked away. And I got to tell you, HD 61, those of you listening to me, we're in a tough spot. If Keresa wins, she's going to have to, fix a relationship with the governor right off the bat. If Keresa wins, she's going to likely be facing a hostile Speaker of the House, unless we're successful in knocking him out as well. Now, I don't think those are the end of the world, and I don't think they're, it's a terrible thing, because quite frankly, we want the person that's in HD1 to be representing us and not working for them, but we're supposed to be on the same team. And Frederick, if you should win, I want you to know there are many things I could have done or said to make this more difficult, and I didn't. Not because I didn't know about them or because they weren't important, but other people had beaten that to a pulp. There was no reason for me to pile on. And if you should win, I'm not going to be your enemy. I am the loyal opposition. That being said, I don't know what's going to happen. I truly hope for what's best for Collin County, what's best for HD61 is we're going to be looking at a new House rep, and her name's going to be Keresa Richardson. But folks, you cannot make enemies out of the people that are going to be down there representing us. I mean, Matt and I have a good relationship because I choose to reach out to him and talk to him. Candy's her own person, but there's no hostility there that I'm aware of. Jeff, on the other hand, that's a different story. And honestly, Mr. Holland going away is a big win in and of itself. But he brought that on himself. We have an opportunity here, folks. Let's not squander it. Let's be wise. Let's work with the people that we can work with on all things. We have an opportunity to knit back together the party, to knit back together the Conservatives, to focus on the things that we can affect change on. We can do that with Shelby Williams as the county chair. We can do that with, flipping the 2 seats from the current holders. I don't know that Karina Pearson, or I don't know what her name, Katrina Pearson, I don't know that she's the best candidate. I had an opportunity to speak to Dennis London. He endorsed her. We'll just leave it at that. Honestly, we'll take what we can get. Sometimes you can't have an uber conservative, and I really wish my brothers in arms would remember that in the party. You can't always get what you want. Okay, now I'm beating a dead horse. I apologize. But ladies and gentlemen, look, we had a really good convention. We had lots of good outcomes. We have an opportunity to seal things up today and take a significant step forward. But we can't take our eye off the ball. We can't just coast on a win. There's no coasting left anymore. Collin County is on the line. And if Collin County is on the line, the state is on the line. Please focus, pay attention, work towards positive outcomes. And with that, this has been According to Callis. Let's go get them. This was episode 643. It was coming out on the 28th of May, the year of our Lord 2024. And as I say, the best way you can help me is to like, share, and subscribe to this program. Follow me on your podcatcher of choice. Join me on the social media. I have a page and a group on Facebook. And I'm a pro at Gab, and I still drop in at MeWe. And you know what? That's how I get my feedback. And with that, this has been According to Callis, and I said that once already. And yes, I will indeed see you on the other side.